Cloudcast Media.
Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, amplifying the voices of social impact organizations, entrepreneurs, local nonprofits, and other community champions who shape the culture, creativity, and connectivity of San Diego. Brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, bringing good things to San Diego for over 60 years. Learn more about what is good for you and good for all by visiting www.missionfed.com.
I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media. We're pleased to have in the studio with us today Bill Barnett. He is the CEO and founder of the Smarter Minds Network. How you doing, Bill?
I'm good, Drew. It's good to see you.
Well, thanks for coming down and sharing with us all the 4 billion things that we can talk about. Maybe we should do the full disclosure at the beginning of the interview. How do we know each other?
Well, we went to high school together.
Went to high school together. Did not know it until I was honored to moderate a special session that you did with as a keynote speaker with NU, National University, and it started breaking down, hey, what's going on? And we had a little fire up here north. Oh yeah, my high school burned down. He goes, well, which high school was that? And I go, on Palisades. Well, that was mine too. And we told the story, and it was a crack up, and it was a pleasure getting to know you and so forth. Talk about the Smarter Minds Network. What's the mission?
So what we do is we help young people, mostly young people, with financial literacy. But we don't just talk about financial literacy. We talk about what it takes to become successful in life. I have a program called Playbook for Life, and it all revolves around financial literacy, and we try to tell people that are not as savvy or have not grown up in a family that talked about financial matters very much. And what we do is we expand upon that, but we really get to the root of how to become successful. And it all starts with relationships and networking and becoming a likable person. And when we break it down, we take it away from the financial element and we bring it into more relationships, people kind of open up a little bit. And they say, you know what? I've always been taught about this, about doing my taxes, about money. And I said, you know what? Let's bring it back a few steps. First of all, let's talk about how you form the relationships to meet people that are going to help you in your career. And that's kind of the basis of Playbook for Life.
Well, I think it's great because we first got to know each other. And of course, we all know this. This has been going on. One of my favorite statements is when people were starting to learn how to walk upright. We've known about relationships, but we're human. Sometimes don't sit there and follow all that. And so you're so spot on in that aspect of it. And we all know when we look at this, what we can, look at our success, however we define success. It's the people we have met, the people we have worked with, and so forth. And with that, I think I even asked you this during the interview with National University. What I find is that, we stink at listening. We hear things, we're terrible listeners. Talk about how important that is to relationship building.
It's such a key point that you bring up. We are terrible listeners. We're always thinking about what we're going to say, instead of listening to what the other person is saying. And I have a couple of rules when I mentor a lot of young people. And people looking for jobs. In fact, I have a call with somebody at 5 o'clock today, and they want to know, what am I doing wrong? What's going on? Why am I not getting the job? What am I not finding out about people? And I always say the first thing that you've got to do is show interest in the other person. Even when you're the one going in for the interview, show interest in the other person. I joke a lot when I walk in and I speak to big classes, 100 or 150 or 200 people. And first question I ask is, how many people have Googled me? How many people have looked up what I do? Is there something that I have done that may be able to help your career? Well, if you haven't looked me up, you're not going to know anything about me. So when you're going in for an interview, you make sure that you know everything about that person or about that company that you need to know. And I also have a little tricks that I tell people. When you're walking into somebody's office to interview, take a look at the walls. What kind of pictures are up there? Did you play tennis? Did you go to the same school? Like you and I, Drew, we automatically connected because we went to the same high school. We have things to talk about. I mean, plus you and I can talk for hours anyway.
Exactly.
But here's a way to go in and see, hey, do they ski? Do they play tennis? Where do they go to college? Anything about them, any commonalities. And it brings the interview into more of a conversation. And I always tell that to people. I said, there's going to be a lot of people interviewing for any particular job, but set yourself apart and do it on a personal level.
That is so spot on. And, you talk about, with that comes how do you build a network of smarter minds? And we've been honored to work with Gary Ridge. I'm not sure if you know Gary, the chairman emeritus for WD-40, always thought as one of the top CEOs in the world because of his focus on working with the employees. And heaven forbid you have happy employees, you actually do pretty well with the company in this aspect of it. But it's all about listening to the other folks and the network aspect of it. But you always surround yourself with smarter people. For me, it's easy because everyone will be smarter when they walk in the room than me in that aspect of it. Talk about that too, Bill.
Yeah, so I think the first element that people have to realize, and I always do it, whether I'm the head of a company or I'm just coming in, everybody in the room is smarter than me. I want to come into a room thinking that I can learn something from everybody in the room. So if you start with the humility, and that's something my dad taught me since I'm a young kid. It didn't hit me until I was in my 30s. I wish it would have hit me earlier. But once you develop that charm of having humility, it opens up the entire world, because then you're willing to listen and to learn from everybody else. And the next big element is building what I call your personal board of directors. All the people that surround you that can help you make better decisions. I have to tell you something. Anytime I make any decision, big or small, I always talk to 2 or 3 people about it, no matter what it is. Even if it's people that don't know anything about my industry, I want to get their take on it because I know they're smart people. I know that they analyze, they think probably clearer than I do in many cases. I always get opinions. After a while, when you have 3 or 4 opinions, the real opinion, the right answer comes to take shape. And that's kind of how I've always run my life.
Yeah, no, it makes all the sense on them. We're chatting with Bill Barnett, CEO and founder of Smarter Minds Network. I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media, listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show. We got the nation's longest running community podcast now in our 19th year, brought to you by the fine folks at Mission Fed Credit Union for 6 decades. These folks have been focused on food insecurity, Alzheimer's, arts, financial literacy, and everything in between on that. I love the fact that you talk about every day is an interview, and you should approach it that way. Explain.
Yeah, so I think every day is an opportunity. I know a lot of people say, well, I'm not an extrovert, I'm an introvert. I got to tell you something. I think that's just a crock. I think it's an excuse. It's a wall you stand behind. I think that everybody can find something to talk to somebody about. And I got to tell you, I'll give you one quick story. Years and years ago, my wife and I were out at a restaurant, nice restaurant with 3 other couples, and we had a lovely waitress. Lovely. She was smart. She joked around with us, and I love that. And I said, okay, you've got a great personality. What else do you do? And she says, well, I'm also a photographer. I said, oh, meet my wife. She's an event producer. And she has been my wife's #1 photographer for the past 30 years. In fact, she did both of our kids' weddings. So you never know who you're going to meet, what they're going to bring into your life. Make every person you meet an opportunity for something new. When I wake up in the morning, I say, who am I going to meet today? Who am I going to meet today that's going to have some kind of a bearing on my life? And if you're open to it, it happens.
There's something with that. And again, you and I connected almost instantaneously just because of Palisades, but then also our like interest in the world of communication and relationships. And, some of the stuff is pretty simple. It doesn't take a PhD to know how to do these types of things. But I love the fact that you're curious. I actually get dinged a little bit. Why do you ask so many questions? I said, because I want to learn about the person. I don't care about me. I know about me. I think I know about me, maybe, but I want to know about you. So I ask a million questions, not to be intrusive, not to sit there and do that, to actually show that I care about the person across from me. You do the same thing.
I could not have used better words than you used. Okay. When I walk into a room, I already know everything about me. Mm-hmm. I already know what I know. If I'm not learning about the other person, I'm not learning. So that's the most important thing to me. I want to learn about the other people. I'm always asking, when I go to a Dodger game, I go to an SC game, I go to anywhere I go, I'm always talking about the other person. I already know about me. I'm not learning. I'm not growing. If the other person wants to find out about me also, of course, I'm more than happy to share it. But I want to know about that other person. And by the way, is there any tie here? Is there any way that we can benefit each other? That's how you grow.
Well, and you find out that a lot of people love to share that. Boy, no one's ever asked me that question. How come no one ever asked you that question? Well, because no one ever asked me that question because they're more interested in themselves. And then we love that answer when someone goes, well, no one's ever told me that. Bill, when we come back from break, I can't wait to get into this topic. Financial independence and smart investing starts early. It's the best advice. It's the smart advice. It's actually got empirical evidence behind it. You're going to share it as well. And then I definitely want to spend some time talking about the Playbook for Life as well when we return with Bill Barnett, CEO and founder of Smarter Minds Network. I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media, listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight in the Community Show, brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union. We will be right back.
When you do your banking with Mission Fed, you get great rates on auto and home loans. That's good for you, but something good also happens for a lot of other people. We're not for profit, so we put money back into the community to help lots of great nonprofits to keep San Diego strong. So you're not just getting something good, you're doing something good. Come to Mission Fed. It's banking that's good for all.
Brand amplification is the DNA of Cloudcast Media, and our code is the powerful blending of sound, voice, and storytelling to lift local brands and their communities. Whether it is our Brandcast, Schoolcast, or Causecast platforms, the unifying ethos is all about this community, the one you call home. If you dare to dream and want to explore the brand amplification of Cloudcast, a national leader in local podcasting and other Winfluence strategies, please visit us at cloudcast.us.
I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media, listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show. We are the nation's longest running community podcast in our 19th year, brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, over 6 decades of doing great things in San Diego County. So pleased to have in my former high school mate. Actually, we didn't even know each other in high school. Actually, we sort of did. It was at Palisades High School. We won't say how many years ago. It's Bill Barnett, CEO and founder of the Smarter Minds Network. Definitely want to get into financial independence and smart investing. And it doesn't start when you're 35. It starts mainly when you come out of the womb. I don't know.
Absolutely true. I'll give you a story about this. I've been talking to my kids about money since they were probably 5 or 6 years old. And when they started to become mother's helpers, that was their first job. They were about 10, 11 years old, and they used to help mothers around on our block that were in their home, but they were working, they were in their offices, they watched their kids, and they started to make some money. And we started to talk about opening a bank account. They opened a bank account. They saw it grow all the time. And when they got it up to several $100s, they said, Dad, we want to use this money for something. We want to start buying some things. I said, terrific. I think you should. I said, what do you like? And they said, well, we like clothes and we like movies. I said, that's terrific. Let's take the money and invest it in stocks in those companies. That way you're making money on them. As opposed to buying clothes, which are a depreciating asset. As soon as you spend the money, it's gone. As opposed to going to a movie. I said, we'll pay for your clothes. We'll pay for your movies. I want you to learn how to save and make money on the companies that you like. And I've always said that the earlier you start, and this is common knowledge, the earlier you start, the more it's going to compound. Another story about that, our kids went away to school. One went to Arizona, one went to Indiana. And because we lived in Los Angeles, they brought their kids home for the summers. And we used to talk about money when the kids came home. And my kids were bored of listening to me talking about money. But the other kids were like amazed. You talk to your parents about this? You have a savings account? You have an investment? They said, of course we do. What are you talking about? And they realized that not every kid had the ability to have their parents talk to them about this, partially because their parents either didn't want to talk to them about it, or even more importantly, their parents weren't savvy enough to talk about these issues. They lived paycheck to paycheck. They didn't know about saving. They didn't know about investing. So I got very involved with their friends, and that kind of got me on the track of writing the book, Smarter Minds, and Playbook for Life, and now it's kind of like my mission.
Well, it's a math issue, and I wish Doug Wright was here joining us. Doug is the president and CEO of Mission Fed Credit Union. He was their previous CFO. He was just on talking about the Alzheimer's Association because that's near and dear to Mission Fed's heart as well. But when he was on as CFO, he'd always talk about this and the shocking amount of people in this country, probably the world for that matter, but this country, these numbers, Bill, that don't save. And they have barely, I'm not sure if they even can make it paycheck to paycheck in this area. And certainly we know. I'm not worrying about the folks that are working as hard as they can, doing the best they can, whether it's a single family home or not. But the key is just save something, something.
The key is to live below your means.
Yeah.
A lot of people say, okay, I'm making a certain amount of money. I'm going to spend every penny. Do not do that. Right. The first person you have to pay is yourself. The first money you have to put away is your savings. And there's 3 buckets. The first bucket is making sure that you have enough money to get by, you pay your mortgage, pay your car, whatever it is. The second is your emergency savings money. That's money that's accessible, that's liquid, that you have for an emergency. God forbid the car breaks down, your washing machine breaks down, there's a leak in your house. You've got to have money for that. But the third, which is the least urgent, but the most important, is your investment portfolio. That's the money that you're going to have for the rest of your life. I always break it down into owned money and rented money. Rented money is the money that you're making on your paycheck. You never know when that's going to go away. You lose your job, that money goes away. But your owned money is in your investment account. That is your money. Nobody can touch it. That's the money that's going to support you. So you've got to make sure that that's the key part. Even if you're 20 years old, start thinking about your owned money, the money that's going to be yours, that you're going to live on for the rest of your life, because you want to live on the interest, on the dividends. I always say that the principal that I've saved, that my wife and I have saved, that's not our money. That's my kids' money.
That's exactly right.
The interest, the dividends, that's my money. Yeah. So as much money as I can put away, the more dividends I have, the bigger life that we can live. But for me, my kids are my central point. And I want to make sure that they have a nest egg to fall back on.
Yeah, and I do the same thing with our daughters as well, especially with Sammy, who's teaching in the Poway school district on that. Talk a little bit about the Playbook for Life.
Yeah, so we're doing a new program right now, and it's going to be a little bit different than most other classes that are taught. It's really for any young adult that has not gone to business school. And even if you have gone to business school, there's a lot you can learn from this. But it's mostly for kids in community colleges that may not go on to a 4-year school. And it's a 6-module course. It's 6 hours, and it's going to be very light and a lot of fun. And it's going to be talked to them in a way that they can understand. It's not going to be from a 67-year-old talking to a 22-year-old. It's going to be in a way that's coming from somebody in their mid-30s that's been in that. And we work very closely with all of these people on exactly how to manage their money. And, I always say, use the principle KISS. Keep investing simple, stupid. It's keep it simple, stupid.
Right.
Keep investing simple, stupid.
Right.
A lot of people say, well, I don't know how to invest. I don't know the right people to talk to. That's a bunch of bull. It is so simple to open an index fund. There are so many great index funds. You can go to Schwab, Fidelity, Vanguard, any of them, and just keep soaking money away. Don't use inexperience or lack of knowledge as an excuse not to save. All you have to do is open one of these index funds. There's many of them out there. I'm not a financial planner. I'm not going to tell you what to do, but there's many of these great index funds that are out there. Read a book, read your podcast. You'll understand exactly what to do. But the earlier you start, the more success you're going to have with your future earnings.
Yeah, there's no question about it. Chatting with Bill Barnett, he's the CEO and founder of Smarter Minds Network, talking about his Playbook for Life. I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media, listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union. You bring up something that is so spot on. It sort of ties into what I love talking about, needs versus wants, and that is live below your means. Okay, because it just depends on how much you want to be financially independent. If you don't want to be financially independent, spend above your means and you will not be independent. You'll be dependent on that credit card bill and all that business. But I think we sort of lost somewhere where our needs and our wants are. Now, listen, we all know mental health is at a crisis stage in our world, unless you've been living in, some other solar system. And we know there's certain things that, yes, this is good for my mental health. I get it. I get it 100%. But I remember when the plasma TVs came out, Bill, and you do too, and they were, what, $3,000 or whatever the case may be. The person couldn't rub two nickels together. But you're going to get a $3,000 plasma TV that'll be worth $125 in about 6 years or whatever the case may be. Do you counsel people on needs versus wants?
Yeah, you know what? You're spot on. I always say, think about what you're buying. If it's a big expenditure, take a couple of days to think about it. Don't do it spontaneously. Don't do it impulsively. But is what I'm buying going to be worth more or less tomorrow? If it's worth more tomorrow, like an index fund, or less tomorrow, like a car or a piece of shoes or clothing or something like that, think very long about what you're doing. Make sure you're making the right decision. Can I buy that shirt that I'm looking at? That's set $90. Can I buy a shirt for $30 and take that extra $60 and put it in one of my accounts? So think about tomorrow. Is it going to be worth more or less? If you can answer that one question, then evaluate the purchase.
Right. How many books have you authored?
Well, one.
Okay, good.
One.
And talk about that.
Okay, so funny story about that. I was a professor at USC, heard one of my talks, and it was called Every Day's an Interview. And they said, Bill, that was a great lesson. We would love to have you teach a class on Every Day's an Interview. And it was right before COVID. COVID hits, of course, the class gets canceled, everything gets canceled, can't do it. And I've got 70 pages of notes about this Every Day's an Interview. And I said, you know what, I'm going to turn it into a book. And I spent 6 months or so rewriting it. I had a co-author that helped me with it. And we did it. We came out with Smarter Minds. And that's how that book started, all because of a class I was going to teach.
Yeah, that's great. So with that advice on Smarter Minds, do you live this every day?
I live it every day. I live it every night. I live it every minute.
Yeah.
And my kids and my wife sometimes get tired of me. I'm constantly listening to podcasts. I'm listening to reading books all the time. I mean, it's just part of who I am. And I just don't think that there's an excuse for anybody not to learn about this stuff. Your financial well-being is your mental well-being. I always say, are you sleeping well at night? People that have money in the bank, that are good with money, they sleep better at night. And that's the most important thing. And it's also the most important thing you can pass on to your kids. The knowledge, the ability to manage money, the ability to make more of your life and be financially responsible. That's the key to a successful and happy life.
Well, it gives you options. It lets you do things that maybe you didn't think you could do and all that business. And, I love when people say, money's not that important. Oh, really? Okay. So you want to be on the street next week? Well, what do you know? Well, I think it's a little more important than you're saying in this aspect of it. And how do you manage it well? How do you enjoy it? Starting early is absolutely spot on. And just the other principles that we've talked about today. Listen. Care about the person that's across the room from you. These things work out. When it's all said and done and you are the poster child for this, it's about relationships. Simple as that. Bill, how can we support the Playbook for Life? How can we support your Smarter Minds?
Yeah, well, you can go to my website, smartermindsnetwork.com, and everything's on there. I do consultation. I do private consultation. My book is available, and Playbook for Life will be available at all colleges, but I'm really shooting for community colleges or any organization that feels like they need to help their group, their community. This is available too.
And what's the website?
www.smartermindsnetwork.com.
Very, very good. Bill, what a pleasure. Good seeing you in person, not just through a TV screen or whatever the case may be, or a monitor. And we'll definitely have you back on. The next time you come on down the road, if it's okay with you, is maybe bring in somebody. Well, of course, I'd love to have Jordan come in, and then I can grill Jordan on is Dad saying the right stuff here? Jordan, who works for Petco, full disclosure there, or someone that's benefited from what you've done.
Yeah.
And we always love to have that's the street cred and all that business. So if you're amenable to that, we'd love to have you come back.
Love to do it. It was good seeing you, Drew.
Absolutely. Bill Barnett, CEO and founder of Smarter Minds Network. I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media. I've been listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show. We are the nation's longest running community podcast in our 19th year, brought to you by the fine folks at Mission Fed Credit Union. 6 decades of really doing great things for people living in San Diego County. And we hope you enjoyed the interview.
You've been listening to an episode of Drew Schlosberg's Spotlight on the Community Show. amplifying the voices of social impact organizations, entrepreneurs, local nonprofits, and other community champions who shape the culture, creativity, and connectivity of San Diego community. Brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, bringing good things to San Diego for over 60 years. Learn more about what is good for you and good for all by visiting www.missionfed.com.
Cloudcast Media.